What's really keeping you from the wealth and time freedom you say you want? Today, we're going straight into mindset, not the fluff, just the tough, loving truth. You'll learn how to take bold action and shift your mental frame and build the life you actually want, and fast. My guest today is Josselyne Herman-Saccio. This woman knocked Whitney Houston off the charts, raised millions for charity, and has coached over 200,000 people to stop reacting and start creating, becoming what she calls unmessable with. She's not just a master mindset coach. She's a walking example of making dreams come true. I'm Tamar Hermes, and this is the Women Growing Wealth podcast. If you're making money but feel like you're still chasing the big vision of your life, this episode is your reset. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Women Growing Wealth podcast. I am very excited today because while we do strategy a lot of times and practical tools about how to save on taxes and how to grow wealth and how to move your money, we also like to focus on mindset. And one thing that our guest today, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, is here, and she is one of the most impressive mindset master coaches that I have seen. Not only does she have an incredible resume, being a rock star in top charts with Whitney Houston, even beating out Whitney, and coaching many huge names in the industry that we can't even say because they're under NDA, and raising millions of dollars for charity. This woman walks her talk. This is who you want to learn from. This is what you want when you're building wealth. We need to look at role models that have come before us, not just hypotheticals. Joss, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be with you and your audience.
Thank you. Now, tell me, I didn't mention your whole platform is about how to be unmessable with.
Yes.
And I love this concept. And I love the fact, like I said at the intro, is that I love the fact that you are not only someone who is unmessable with, but you actually say, I walk my talk. This is my dream list. I have my dream list. Talk to me. Help the listeners. Where did this realization come from that you could actually do this, and what tools can we utilize? And I know we're going to chip away at this, but we all want it. We're here to grow wealth. We're here to have a fulfilling life. How do you do it?
Well, that's pretty much, here we go. We'll do the Cliff Note version. No, where this whole thing about being unmessable with actually got birthed was when I was about 4 years old. I had a dream of being a singer, and I would sing to anyone, anything, stuffed animals, inanimate objects. It didn't matter. Whoever I could trap so that I could sing, I would do that. And then when I was 5 years old, I was sitting in the car with my dad. We were in a Chevy Impala convertible, and he was in advertising, but he had been a painter. And I noticed that recently he had stopped painting as much as he used to. So I said to him, why'd you stop painting? And he said, very matter of factly, not like in order to kill my dream, he just said, well, you can't do your art as your career. And in that moment, in the infinite wisdom of 5, I said to myself, you can't do your art as your career. And that was really what impacted me. It wasn't what he said, because he said a lot of things in my life that I didn't listen to. It was that I said it to myself. And that's really what happens for people mindset wise. It's what you say to yourself, the decisions you make, the conclusions you come to that impact you. It isn't what somebody else does or says. It's never what happened that impacts you. It's what you say about it. So fast forward, I'm then thinking, I guess I'll have to be a lawyer or something, like a business person, because that's how you can make a living. So I am doing that as a 18-year-old. I was running a company. I mean, I got very much on the track of producing results and being effective and making money. And I was effective at that. But then I was in a transformative workshop in my very early 20s. And in transformative work, oftentimes memories will show up, like things that you decided. And that moment showed up, the moment in the Chevy. And I thought, what if that decision that you can't do your art as your career isn't the truth? Like, what if it's a decision I made? in the infinite wisdom of five. So it got loose for me, like the solidity of it, the truth of it loosened up. And then within 3 months, I got a record deal. And I had no evidence for, I mean, I was a producer. I was producing television shows, commercials. I was running a company. I had no evidence for that I was a singer, but I started taking the actions that a singer would take. I was creating that I was a singer, and within 3 months got a record deal. And that record ended up going to number one, and we knocked Whitney Houston out of the number one spot when she was there for like 9 million weeks with I Will Always Love You. So that dream coming true that quickly had me develop a methodology, which is the art of being unmessable with, which is how do you shift from the world of survival and reaction and sort of shoulds and shouldn'ts and goods and bads to the world of creation and vision on a dime. So for, 35 years, I've been coaching people in how to do that. And I've coached more than 200,000 people to live their dreams now, not someday. Because I was always like, well, someday I'll be a singer, someday, whatever that day is. And it's not a real day. And I've applied that to every area of my life, from being a parent to making money to now I live part-time in France, part-time in New York, because that was a dream of mine. And I was like adding someday to it. I said, oh, nope, when are we doing it? And we came up with a plan and did it 3 years ago. And so there's never been anything that was out of my reach because I could create it and then backwards plan it and see what messed with me in being able to take the actions to fulfill on the plan and just disintegrate what messes with me. So I do that for other people. I just empower them to do the same thing.
I love that. So what we'll work on today in a nutshell is certain things that people can start with. And then of course, if they decide, oh my gosh, I need Joss in my life full time, then we'll let them know how to do that. Let's say I'm going to use one of my clients as an example. Let's say I run a successful company. I'm making millions of dollars a year, but I don't have time freedom. So I might have team in place, but I just don't have all the team. And as I expand, I need more team and I can't quite keep up with it. So I'm in a scenario, and this can be a scenario, maybe I'm not making millions of dollars a year. Maybe I'm a W-2 and I'm making a great salary and I have the golden handcuffs because I've got to feed the kids. So tell me, how do I get out of this trap?
Well, those are two different circumstances. So, I mean, my coaching would be different depending on the circumstance. But the first place I would start with anybody is, what is your vision? And most people, when I say, what is your vision, they'll give me a goal. And that's different than vision, because goal is something that's going to happen in reality. Like, I want to double my revenue, or I want to have 10 hours more a week available to do free time, or whatever, you'd be working on. But vision is more contextual. So vision points to your experience of life, not the content, but the context. So I'll give you an example of this. In the context number, and for those of you listening, not watching, I'm holding up my finger. In the context number, what is this? It's not a trick question.
It looks like you're
Oh,
holding up a one, but I
yeah,
can't.
exactly. In the context number, it's a one. It's a one finger. But it's one in the context number. But in the context body part, it's what?
In the context body part, like, what does that mean?
I'm holding up what? If the game
Oh,
is
you're holding up your
got
finger.
exactly. This is very simple. I'm not trying to trick you.
Right.
Okay. And then in the context direction,
You're holding it
it
right in the air.
it's like up. I'm
Right.
pointing up, right?
Up, pointing up.
So nothing in reality altered, but when you alter the context, how you view reality and your experience of reality completely shifts. So the context is decisive, and vision is a contextual conversation. So in the context of survival, working a 40-hour or 50-hour work week, can occur as, stressful and burnout material and overwhelming. But in the context of, let's say, freedom and fulfillment, you could be taking the very same actions, the content, and it shows up differently for you. It occurs differently for you, which gives you a different experience of life. So, there are people who have lots of money, right? They have tons of money in the bank account, but they still experience scarcity because the context is scarcity. So the
Right.
context is like a lens. It colors how you view the content. So that's why I first work on vision with people, because it'll give them a created context to true up everything to. So when I'm
Okay.
working, with a founder or an executive, if what they're committed to is the experience of freedom and impact, then we measure everything against that game, which is fulfillable
Right.
now, not someday.
Right. So, for example, my first example of this client that makes a lot of money and feels bottlenecked. It's interesting because as you were sharing that, I would say the truth is that if she wanted true time freedom, she really does have enough money and she's already creating enough cash flow. But she keeps opening up new businesses, right? So you're right. Like in the vision, if my vision is, hey, I want freedom, and yet I keep opening up more businesses. What am I doing with my time? What am I saying about my time? I'm saying I want to make more money or I want more business. I'm not saying I want time freedom.
Or you can start new businesses, but you just have to be good at delegating, which most entrepreneurs suck at, delegating and training people, because, I open up new ventures, but I'm not involved in them. I empower people to fulfill on the vision of that company and the goals of that company, rather than me having to do it. So a lot of, when you say they experience bottleneck, no, they are the bottleneck. That's the problem, is that
Right.
they think doing it all and having it all are the same thing. You can have it all, but you can't do it all. You can't, because you're a physical body.
Right. And don't you think that there's a place where there's self-sabotage for a woman where, like you talked about, the scarcity and the struggle mindset coming from women need to work hard to make it. As a result, there's a loop that goes on and it's hard to get out of.
Yeah. I call that the world of reaction. So the world of reaction is where your explanations, your reasons, oh, it's because of I'm a woman and then I think I have to do that, or you can't do your art as your career, so I'm not going to go pursue that, or whatever the rationale is. That's this world of, you're not even really there. It's not like you having these thoughts. They're just thoughts. They're happening. It's like a default mode on a computer. Then there's this world of creation and vision, which is a totally different experience. It's like up and out, and we've all had that experience when we first get in a relationship or we first start our new business. It's like exciting, and you're creating and you're succeeding and failing and you don't even care. You're enlivened by all of it. But then at some point, what you create turns into something to manage. And that shifts over to that world of survival. Like, I got to make payroll, or I got to, make sure that I have enough in the reserves to blah, blah, blah. It's the opposite of creation. And that's where the magic goes away, because there's no magic in management. So the work to do is to be able to identify which world you're in. Are you in the world of reaction, surviving, good, bad, right, wrong, reasons, justifications, considerations? Or are you in the world of creation and vision? And mostly, 99.9% of the time, people are in the world of reaction. So the question becomes, how do I shift worlds? And that, I mean, I have a free resource on my website called the Instant Reset Hack, which gives you like a 5-step process to intervene in being in the world of reaction, reset, and then go to the world of creation or vision, because that's the muscle that needs to get developed. Because being unmessable with doesn't mean nothing hooks you. You might get hooked, but how quickly can you get back over to that space of vision, which is very much a spatial thing. It's not like a result thing, because you could produce all the results in the world, like you said with your example. You could have, 9 figures in the bank and still feel constrained. So it's not dealing with reality. So the first thing I would do with that person is do an audit of reality. So it's like, how much money do you have? How much money do you make? How much money do you spend? What is the cash flow? And so deal with the reality of, okay, so do you actually have enough? Yes, you do. Okay, fine. How many hours do you work a week? And what are you doing? I'd have them do a 2-week audit of their time. What are you actually acting on? And people are shocked when they do this, because they'll see they spend a lot of time taking actions that don't produce results and suck their energy. So I have them do a time audit of not only what actions they're doing, what result is it producing, and does it give you energy or suck your energy? Because if things are sucking your energy, especially as a founder or CEO, you need to get rid of that stuff and give it to somebody else to do. And mostly that's where the bottleneck happens, because people are not good. They have a mindset issue of trust, or thinking it's going to take them more time to train somebody than just do it themselves, which are all myths. Once you train somebody, then it frees up exponential amount of time. But initially, you do have to design the training, and you have to, not be a perfectionist crazy person saying it has to be like how you do it. It's not going to be how you do it. It'll be 80% of what you did is fine. That's better than you doing it.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It sounds like there's a lot of check in that needs to go on when we are assessing what we want our wealthy life to look like. And I'm wondering because clearly we have 80 million thoughts a day and we
Totally.
can only process so many. And there's this conscious and the subconscious mind. How often do we keep catching ourselves to reprogram?
It's more about catching what I call the red flag. So before you even go down the road of reaction, something happens in your body. And it's like a symptom of being in the world of reaction. And I call it a red flag. Could be tight chest. Maybe it's your face gets red, your neck gets tight. Everybody has a different red flag. So what you need to be on the lookout for is that physical manifestation of being messable with, because that happens like a nanosecond before the rationale. So scarcity mindset is conceptual. Tight chest, that's happening in reality. That you can catch. So I work with people to identify what their red flags are so that they can catch it before they get too far down the road of reaction. Then once they catch it, it doesn't even matter why they're reacting. If my chest is tight, I know I am heading down that road. So I hack it, and you have to create a hack for yourself, and it's got to be physical, because what's happening is physical in your brain. Your brain is firing in the amygdala, which is the survival part of your brain, and your brain is designed to survive. So it's doing what it was designed to do, except in those moments you're in fight, flight, freeze, survival, get through this situation, get through the week, get through the quarter, get through this conversation mode, to on to the next thing and the next thing. And that's why people are exhausted, right? And burnt out. So if you catch it and you hack it, and you can do a hack as like, a rubber band on your wrist, or you can shake your hands. It's got to be something physical though, that kind of resets you to nothing. And you go, okay, what is my vision? What am I creating right now? Is it whatever it is, right? So for me, freedom and fulfillment is my vision right now. That's what I'm operating inside of. So I recently had an opportunity to do this really great project with somebody who I really love, but it was a lot of work, right? It was like hours and hours. And I work like 15 hours a week, and I have 10x'd my revenue since I started doing this. So this is what I train people to do, especially entrepreneurs. I tell them, you want to minimally double your business and work less, have more freedom, then work with me, right? Because that's what I did for myself. And I don't want to work more. So the whole freedom and fulfillment thing is very important to me. And part of that has to do with how many hours I work a week. So as I started planning out what it was going to take to do this project, which I was excited about because I love this person and I wanted to do it with him, I saw the reality of what it was going to look like in my calendar. And I was like, you know what? This is not consistent with what I'm creating. This will actually be a sabotage of what I am creating. So I said no.
Yeah. What I hear in your voice, what you're doing is the commitment to the vision. You always go back to the vision.
Always
And
back to the vision.
where I think a lot of women can get challenged is those old patterns, which of course is the whole mindset game anyway, because our minds are so powerful. And I don't know what it is about that comfort of, even though we're miserable, we'll stay in something that's miserable as opposed to leaving. And I would love for you to speak to that, because I do feel like that's a big roadblock. I can come to you, I can tell you, Joss, I want to work 15 hours a week. And yet, uh, there might be a part of me that thinks, well, what am I going to do for those other hours? Well, am I bringing value in the world if I'm not making more money at every hour? There's all kinds of things that can come in my head. So
Yeah, those are considerations. So that world of reaction includes reasons, considerations, justifications. That's that whole world. So I have considerations all the time, but it's not really me having them. It's just my brain producing thoughts, right? So the question is, okay, what am I creating? So if you're creating freedom and fulfillment, it doesn't mean that you're not doing that at Starbucks, or you're not doing that when you're with your family, or you're not doing that when you're exercising. So it doesn't have to be all work all the time. It's a design issue. So much of what I do is I work with people to design, what do you want your life to look like in a year from now or 5 years from now? And then let's look at, okay, so if in 5 years from now it looks like that, then what would it be looking like 4 years from now? Like, what would it actually look like? And you've got to go from the future backwards, because if you go from the present forwards, you're going to be building on your current circumstances, and your thinking will be limited to your current circumstances and resources. If you go from the future backwards, you start at nothing and you kind of paint a picture, and then you can go backwards, and what will get illuminated are the team members that are missing, the structures that are missing, the systems that are missing, or the skill sets that are missing. So then you can plan for developing the team, the skill sets, the system, and the structures, because it'll be illuminated that that's what's missing. And if you do it forward, front forwards, those things won't get illuminated, because you're going to be like, okay, so what can I accomplish with what I have? And then maybe I'll add this. So you're building versus creating. So we want to be creating from the future. And that's basically what I did. And, in terms of living in France, I just built it from the future. And I was like, okay, well, how am I going to make the money that I want to make to be able to be in both New York and take care of my kids, and they're in college and and be in France. And I developed a stretch, like, okay, well, I need to do some stock trading and pull the money out of the market every month in covered calls, which is completely doable if you do the backwards planning. But if you look from here forward, it's like, how am I going to add this much income? No, no, no. How am I going to, like, if I'm making X amount a year, what percentage is going to come from the market? What percentage is going to come from services? What percentage is going to come from residual income that is built from courses or whatever it is that you're developing? So you're doing it from a nothing space versus dealing with what you have and trying to add to it or take away from it.
Yeah, I love that. Now let's talk about some of the tools you use, because you talk a lot about abracadabra, and of course we
Yeah.
can't have a podcast episode with Joss without talking about that. And also, I'm curious, do you use meditation and journaling? Where do those lie in? I know you're going to explain the abracadabra too.
Yeah. Well, abracadabra is a Hebrew word or an Aramaic word, and in ancient Aramaic or Hebrew, what it literally means is I create as I speak. So I have a tattoo that says abracadabra, so do my daughters. And it really is about, I create with word, and then I fulfill on that word through actions. So people think it's like a magician term, but it is kind of magic, because your word is your wand. And what I deal with mostly with people is their word, because it's not like you as a human being are messable with. Your word is messable with, because you say you want something, like you're saying, I want to work less, but then things happen and you're like a cat with a light. You just end up getting distracted and far away from your word. If everybody could keep their word about things, and I don't mean this like, the integrity police or anything, but if everybody could create and then follow their word versus follow their feelings or fears or considerations, they'd all be living their dreams. That's the key to it. So when you're unmessable with, it's your word that is unmessable with. Your word is like law in the universe. You say X and X happens. You say Y and Y happens. You say double your revenue and double your revenue happens. You say intimacy in my marriage and intimacy in your marriage happens, because you have that much power with your word. The muscle to build is your word. And so the methodology is all designed to give power to your word and less power to your thoughts and your feelings and your considerations and past and reasons and all of that.
And the other thing you talk about with your word is that it's not just me waking up in the morning and doing affirmations. I need to declare it to you. I need to say to you, Joss, I want to have $5 million more by next year and December 31st, 2026.
Well, you can say that, but if you don't take actions, nothing's going to happen. So mindset without actions is baloney and, a lot of hot air. So that's why the backwards planning is so important, because if you create a goal, so you create the vision, which is the context, then you create goals, and then you backwards plan them, and you have actions that you put in your calendar, like I'm going to spend an hour writing on Wednesday, and I'm going to, spend a half an hour making new client calls on, or whatever. Then you can deal with your performance, what actions are working, what actions aren't working, that you need to adjust the action plan. But if you have a goal and you don't have actions, it's like, what is going to happen? Like, maybe by hope you're going to produce those results. Or if you have a goal and you have actions and then you don't do them, like you find yourself going through the day and like 10 of the things you had scheduled you didn't even do, then you've got to work on your muscle of saying X and doing X. Like, what's messing with your word? And that's what I dismantle with people as we deal with, you're either going to produce the results or you're going to get stopped in producing the results, and we'll see what messed with your word.
Right. I love that. And in terms of declaring those dreams and visions, you say that you like them to be said to someone, not to I don't need to just declare
You
them
just
outside of
are,
myself.
you're a cheap audience, you're a cheap date. You'll get bought off. So it's like, just think about how many times your snooze button goes off every once in a while. It's like, but if you had a meeting with someone else, you'd be much more likely to wake up. If you don't have, if it's just your word to yourself, it's even weaker. So when you create it with someone else, it adds reality to it. It adds what we call agreement reality. So it's just like anything. Money is I know you deal a lot with wealth. So money, which is not wealth, but money is real by agreement. Look at the price, the value of the dollar changes every hour, right? And that's all by agreement. There's no like actual value to a dollar. It's a made up thing. And then enough people, or the right people, say that that's the value of the dollar. And then it is. So, or the
Mhm.
exchange rate with, the euro or whatever. I mean, that changes every day. So it's not solid like this bottle is real. It's a different kind of reality. And that involves communication. So anything you want to create in the world, barring creating like a building or something like that, which requires bricks and metal, if you want to create something in terms of results, most of those results, they live in language, and then the actions that fulfill on those results happen in reality. So having the conversation with someone adds reality to your vision, because you can have a thought and then sell out on your thought in 2 seconds. But if you create it with 100 other people, then they're kind of relating to you as that. I like, if all of a sudden I just started being really messable with, like, just like a leaf in the wind of circle, oh, I don't know if I can do that, and people would be like, what is going on with you? Because I've trained people to relate to me as the art of being unmessable with, so that's how they would. So it would be odd if I started being like all wimpy and stuff.
I love the whole concept of being accountable to someone. It is the main reason that the Women Growing Wealth Investor platform exists, not only to be able to have women to share wealth ideas with, but also to bring in strategy. So we have the to do list, the action items,
Yes.
and also the sharing. I'm wondering if you also, how you feel about journaling and meditation and all the other modalities, how those come into play for you.
I think all those practices are great if they work for you. I don't journal. It's not my thing, but I do write newsletters every day, and I, create content, which is my version of journaling. But meditation is very important, if you are doing it to actually be, not in order to something else. You know what I mean? So it's like, in order to have peace of mind, I don't think meditation works. Meditation is for me, when you hack your reaction, that's the same thing as meditation. You're getting to nothing. So being able to access nothing at any given moment, whatever road can get you there, by all means, whatever floats your boat. But for me, definitely meditation, being by the water, breath work, and the hack methodology gets me to nothing. So from my view, all that mindset stuff is about getting to nothing. And that's what all my work is about. But you don't have to be in a meditation room to do it. You can do it in the midst of an argument with your husband if you're using that muscle.
There are so many different modalities to grow strength in our mind and to get to nothing. It's true. And I love the fact that you're showing the many ways in which you're just trying to get to the same place, whatever it takes for you as a person. That's
Yeah,
great.
and I do recommend sometimes if somebody's dealing with something that they're suffering over, I recommend journaling. With a certain intention, but sometimes writing things out makes a big difference for people. It sort of outflows things and gets it complete. But just journaling, for the sake of journaling, to me, I don't know, I'd rather spend my action someplace else.
Let's talk about the pain of money. And when I talk about the pain of money, what I mean is all of these messages that come into the world for most humans, that our parents leave their stresses of money on us. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that, whatever it is. And then going to moving into the world and, realizing we need money for certain things and the stress of all that. I would love to leave the listeners with more of a healthy view. Of course, we've talked a lot about a lot of strategies that you can actually implement to money, but money is very potent. So I'd love for you to speak to that.
Well, I don't know how potent it is, but it definitely messes with people. It's one of the top
And
5
that's what I
messes with
mean. It's
people.
potent.
Yes, it
It's
definitely.
potent in that it's
Yeah.
powerful in messing with people.
Yeah, well, we give it that kind of power because money as itself is actually worthless. It really doesn't buy you much. But I remember when my daughter, who's now like almost 30, when she was like 4 years old, she wanted something. I think it was a for real pet or something. And I said, well, money doesn't grow on, I said that money doesn't grow on trees. And she said, well, in fact, Mom, it does. It's made of paper. So
I love
I
that.
kind of got a big aha about that. I was like, she's not wrong. And, what am I saying? Like, where did that come from? Money doesn't, so whoever it came from, wherever, whether it was TV or I don't even remember. But the point is, your relationship to money is what messes with you. It's not money itself, because you have the amount of money you have and you don't have the amount of money you don't have, but whatever. And if you want to make more money, then you can create a plan to take actions to make more money. I mean, that's really how simple it is. Now, I don't mean to trivialize if you're dealing with, a lot of debt or, situations with, health bills and things like that. That's a real thing. But it's still the same methodology, which is, okay, what do I need to do to create what I want to create? That's really where you need to stay. When people stay in the world of, well, the reasons why I don't have money, or the justification, well, it's the economy, or, oh, it was my family programming, or then you're in the world of reason and justification and consideration, and you're going to get stuck there. So that's the world of being messable with. So you need to always be resetting to, okay, what do I want? And what am I creating? And what do I need to do? So whether it's what do I need to do to get out of debt, renegotiate my credit card rate, or what, consolidate, or what is it that I need to do to make more money in terms of a switch in your work or an addition, a side project, whatever it is. Those are the actions. That's what I train my kids in. So I have a 19-year-old. She's my youngest. I have 3 kids, and she just got a job and she's in college, and she's like, okay, so I'm making this much. She's doing her budget. She just moved out to an apartment for the first time. She's living with roommates and not living under my house, so she doesn't have my refrigerator, right? So she's got to deal with her own
I have
money.
a 19-year-old son. You should see
Yeah.
what my refrigerator looks like when he's home from college.
Yeah, oh, believe me, she comes over and it's basically like she's not going to go to Trader Joe's. She's coming to my house shopping because, there's stuff here. But she had, for a month, the first month moving out, I had her track I had her do what I have my clients do, track everything she spent money on, and then look at it and compared to what she's making from her job, which is not enough to cover it, right? And she said, okay, well, this is way more than I thought I was spending. I said, exactly. It's like a food diary, like you don't realize what you're eating until you track it. So I said, okay, so what do you see about that? She goes, well, I see that I would need to work one more day a week in order to cover this and reduce, the amount of iced coffees I go out and buy, and I could make iced coffee at home. And she started getting real creative about what she could do. And I'm supplementing to a certain degree. But she said, my request is that you supplement by this much, which was less than I expected. So I was happy. I was like, sure, no problem. I'll talk to Dad, but, I'm sure it'll be okay. As I'm thinking, we just got off easy, you know. But it has her be the source of her finances rather than here's your allowance, now make it work. She's now creating her budget versus adjusting her budget to some amount. It's like, okay, what is it that I need to, what do I need? What do I want? And am I spending money on things I need or that I want? And how much of that do I need to rebalance? And if I want to save money, how much of every check do I want? Because I always tell her, save at least 10% of every check, because then you'll have discretionary money.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love this conversation for how we can help our kids, because we forget as we start making more and more money and our business has grown and we're in the wealth building preservation space, is we forget where we were when we started and how important it is to educate our children so that they can have the strategies and tools. And I love that you're using exactly what you do with your clients. I do the same thing with my kids, and I get this question asked a lot, so I appreciate you going through that so that any woman that's listening that has children at any age, we can already start to help train the ideas around money as a tool, which is what it
Yeah,
is,
and it
and
is a
serving.
tool. I mean, and it can create freedom, but it doesn't always, because that's a mindset thing. And by the way, it's not just for kids. I do this with my clients. It's like, track your spending, because they're spending money on stuff they don't need to. And if money is an issue for them and they need to reduce their spending or increase their income, then they're not at the source of their relationship to money, then it doesn't matter what they do. They're always going to feel in that scarcity mode.
100%. And especially you can be running a very successful company with a lot of money coming in and growing that bottom line. But if you don't have the relationship with the wealth building and with your relationship with money, it can get lopsided, and you can still not even feel great about the amount of money you're making. Or also just not be spending properly on the personal side, which
And
can.
also, people don't even know what their numbers are. That's like the first
Mhm.
thing. I
Uh-huh.
have, CEOs that do not know how much money they're making, how much money they're spending, what their profit margin is. That's the first thing I do. I was like, no, you need to, every time I talk to you, if you don't have accurate numbers, I'm getting off the phone, because I can't coach you in unreality. I need to deal with the reality. If you don't know you're in Jersey and you want to get to Paris, you can't plot a course to Paris, because if you're in Ohio, or you think you're in Ohio, but you're actually in Jersey, you're going to be all over the place. So you need to know
Right.
where you are, just like your weight. If you're dealing with a trainer, you want to know what your BMI is, what your, whatever all those things are, so that you can
100%,
track it.
100%. So segueing back to wealth building and the wealth building piece, of course, I always share that there is the tactical strategy, the access, the opportunities to investments, understanding what those are, and then, of course, being able to manage all of the money. You share an exercise and you talk about what's behind the why. And we've talked about the vision, and we've talked about certain strategies that you can use to get into a practical mode of what is really happening. Can we talk a little bit about this exercise behind the why? Because I feel like it could be really effective regardless of wherever you're at. The woman that's listening right now has goals and wants more wealth and is
Yeah.
or working on some strategy. So this behind the why really seems to pull everything together.
Well, it's really behind the goal, behind the what. So if you look at, okay, here's my goal, I want to make $5 million in the next 2 years. Okay, then what? So my question is always like, let's say you accomplish that goal. Let's say you win that Academy Award. Then what? What do you experience? What is the experience you think will be there once that goal is reached? And inevitably, I have to go through a few layers of that. Like, if I, because when I work with actors, they're like, well, I just want to be on TV regularly. Okay, let's say that happened. Then what would be available? Then I could have my pick of film roles. Okay, then what would be available? Then I could win an account. Okay, then what would be available? Well, freedom. Okay, well, freedom, you don't have to wait for the Academy Award. You can start creating that right now. You can create that with your family. You could create that with the dry cleaner. You could create that any place at any time. And that's what I mean by live your dreams now. versus chase something someday. Once I reach this metric, then I'll be free, or then I'll be self-expressed, or whatever your vision is. So the main thing is to get to the vision. Again, it starts with the vision. So what is the experience of life that you're committed to creating? And then don't wait for the goal to be reached. Start creating that experience now.
And that also unravels when you start living into that experience of that vision. It also will unravel more opportunities to kind of head that way.
Totally. Totally. And you're not even heading, it's like you're standing in the vision, you're heading towards it, and you're coming from it all at the same time.
100%. I love that. Yeah, that's wonderful. So now tell me, is there anything else in terms of what women might be missing, or one practical tool, any other practical tools that we haven't covered here today that you want to leave the women listening today with?
Well, I think, one of the biggest issues women have, I mean, people have this, but women have, is burnout and overwhelm, right? Burnout is almost always a function of being disconnected with your vision. When you're just doing, and you're not connected to the bigger why or the context, then it's exhausting. And, as women, most of us, the first thing that'll go is our well being. We'll forfeit our well being to take care of everybody else, whether it's the people in our company or the people in our family or whatever. It's like we are last. So, the one thing I would do for sure is, number one, get your vision. But number two, make sure you design into your day, as important as a new client meeting is well-being time. So whether it's whatever that is for you, whether it's sitting and having a cup of tea, whether it's taking a walk, whether it's working out, whether it's whatever it is, you must have what I call recharge time. Because if you don't do that, I mean, you recharge your phone probably 2 or 3 times a day, but we don't recharge ourselves. And we need to do that, because I don't care what kind of Ferrari you're driving, no gas, no trip. And so that's the one thing I would say for women specifically, to make sure that that is a priority, because you only have one physical body. And if you don't nurture it, you'll run out of steam and you won't be able to make the difference you want to make.
And what I love about all these tools that you shared today, too, is that really you could be at any level of wealth, any dream, anything that you want that's possible. You can utilize the tools that we talked about today to get started on that journey. And if someone wants to learn more about you, Joss, where would they go? And if you would repeat the free gift, I would love my listeners to
Absolutely.
have access to that.
Yeah. Well, my website is Be Unmessable With. So is my podcast. So is my Instagram. So everything's Be Unmessable With. But on my website, I have a freebie page, which has a bunch of free resources. One's about money, one's about burnout, one's about, all that. But the instant reset is what I had talked about earlier, which is that 5-step process. So you can get that on the freebie page. Or if you just want to go directly to that and you don't want to go to the website, there's a link for unmessablewithgift.com, unmessablewithgift.com, and you'll get the instant reset.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
being with us today. This has been so valuable, and I really would love any listener that had a great revelation in this. Please either leave a note on YouTube and like and subscribe on YouTube, and also like the podcast and leave a review for the Women Growing Wealth podcast. I appreciate so much you being here today, Joss. And
Thank you for the
listeners, we'll
opportunity.
see you next time.